James Harden, soon as 6 o'clock hits, 2-70, player option on year 2, and they also signed Derrick Jones Jr. 3-30. We talked about the Clippers a little bit, but considering they're going to lose Russ and James, I guess, slides up a spot, like he's going to be the number one guy during those games that Kawhi Leonard misses, because Kawhi Leonard, I'm telling y'all this now, he ain't playing no more than 60 games. You can forget that. He's playing
I don't know, man.
more.
You see those pictures of him in Costa Rica? He's looking healthy, ready to rock. Maybe it's a new Kawhi, but yeah, you're probably right.
Look, if I'm the Clippers, I'm like, bro, you playing in the Olympics on those knees?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. How do you view just the Clippers now? Just they're completely without Paul George, but now James Harden has a more prominent role. Russell Westbrook is going to slide out. Do you see them as sort of trying to recalibrate themselves, or are they taking like a full step back being without PG?
I mean, I'll say recalibrate, because honestly, the results of the trio being together were what they were. They won, what was it, 2 playoff series in 5 years? 3 maybe. And I understand it's funny. Our friend and colleague and legend David Aldridge had tweeted something yesterday about basically saying, like, yes, you can criticize the move the Clippers initially made, but he was giving Steve Ballmer credit for going for it. Mm-hmm. You kind of, cleverly called it a baller move for Ballmer. And I get that. But the result, and in theory, that is the way you should attack team building. And certainly Ballmer's ability and willingness to go for it is just like no other. It just hasn't paid off. So, but they weren't a great team last year. I almost wonder, they're certainly not going to be as good, but like, I'm very curious to see, okay, does James Harden step up to the plate at this late stage of his career and realize, again, we talk about legacy all the time, and it's not a legacy conversation. It's more of just okay, what's the last taste, you're going to have in your mouth about James Harden and his career? Because if you mail it in and you got Kawhi sitting and you got James looking, like just a MJ at the final stages with the Wizards, which is probably a compliment. I don't know. I threw Michael under the bus there, but
that's probably more of a compliment to James than it is to Mike.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Mike in the Wizards uniform was better than you think.
I know. And that's where history is getting the best of us. Who's the worst, all-time great late? Like who was the poster boy?
That's
for that
good one. Maybe it's like Patrick Ewing in a Sonics uniform, or Hakeem Olajuwon in a Toronto
Tony
Raptors
Parker
jersey.
In Charlotte, yeah.
Who in Charlotte? Who was in Charlotte?
Tony Parker.
Oh, that's right. Tony Parker was in Charlotte.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That might be the most recent one. That's a good one there, Sam.
So I just think, is James gonna, he's had moments the last 2 years where he was really damn good. He's just not consistent, and had a late regular season stretch with the Clippers that was really odd because he stopped shooting the ball and looked terrible. So, what's James going to do? What's Kawhi going to do? I like the Derrick Jones Jr. pickup a lot. We obviously just watched him all the way on the finals run, and youth, athleticism, versatility, two-way play, lob threat, obviously like crazy on the break. So I think that'll be fun. I don't know. I mean, the arena component for the Clippers just adds such a unique thing. So, and this is a West Coast deal, but you got to really understand, like, it's such a big deal for the Clippers to not be in the same building as the Lakers anymore. And they're going to Inglewood. They're literally like a stone's throw away from the Forum.
They're on the same block. I mean, not the same block. They're a block away.
Right. It's right next to it. And it's just got all these, like, what I love this stuff, like this Lakers-Clippers rivalry, and like this, you know what? We're not only going to move out of your house, because we all know it was the Lakers' house first at Staples and Crypto, but, we're going to go live at your old pad back when you had, the good times. So that was supposed to be the plan. You know what I mean? Steve Ballmer was kind of doing his hostile takeover of the basketball world in LA. And this team is just not capable of doing that. Right now, not to make it all about LA, but like, I'm still taking, I think, the Lakers over the Clippers as currently constructed. I think it's somewhat close, but I think this is the Clippers team. We'll see how they look. And it's really, really, at the end of the day, it's all about Kawhi. Like, is he going to be available? Is he going to be the MVP level guy that we've seen, or is he going to be load management guy?
I think if you're asking in this NBA, if you're asking if a guy can be what he was 3 or 4 years ago, you already got your answer. You know what I mean? Like it looks like Kawhi Leonard. It sometimes feels like Kawhi Leonard, but those old guys being able to do it night after night when it really matters, like we're always asking the question, if this team is healthy, if this team is whole. The reason that we'll never get the answer to that question is because we got the answer to the question. Because they won't be whole. Because these dudes is old.
Ooh,
like this is
nice bars.
This is no. There you go. Now you're taking. That's my nickname for Marcus Thompson, bars, because he's like he just throwing stuff out there. But I'm sure you agree with me on this one, Sam. This league is no longer a place for these old dudes. Like, yeah, get your money, right? Get all of your money. You're going to make more money on the back end of your career because of the way that the CBA is. But when it comes down to winning, the Lakers ain't doing no winning. The Clippers ain't. Any team that's led by an old dude, Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, it looks and feels like Muhammad Ali, but he took his ass out there and fought Larry Holmes and it was painful. That's what it looks like for these dudes now, for these teams now. It looks like Kawhi Leonard. It looks like LeBron. It looks like Steph. Every now and again, they can rev it up, but they can't do it for 82 games. And you can't do it for 4 playoff rounds. That's kind of where I'm at with all of these old-ass teams.
And that was the takeaway of the postseason, right? Was round by round, it was old head out by Kevin Durant, by this guy, that guy, Steph Curry. LeBron couldn't even get into the dance. You know what I mean? So you're right. As an aside, man, we just pulled something amazing off. Like, we're disparaging Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali in the same
You disparaged Michael Jordan. You did that. I disparaged Muhammad Ali.
I feel better now that you brought, Mr. Ali into the conversation.
Yeah,
late, great.
That was my fault.
But you're right. I mean, now that's where, not to go back to Philly for too long, but that's where the Philly thing, is so imperfect, because it's like, again, my
can Paul George get there? He's getting old.
That's my point. He's 34.
Yep.
And Joel is 30 going on 40 because of his health history. And that's where the questions, I actually talked to someone recently who was just in Philly. They're not a Philly person, but they were in Philly and they had the radio on, right? And said, like, man, like, all the talk radio is actually not who are we going to get for Joel to help him out. It was, why can't we just get Joel out of town like that? And I don't want to, like, this is third-hand info about sports talk radio in Philly, but the vibe that they came out of Philly with was like, because of the health stuff, because of everything that comes with the Joel experience, that some fans clearly were ready to move on. And that's where, for Philly, you had to, like, nobody thought they were going to put him on the market. That's not the road you're going down. So Paul is the best option available. But to your point, old does not work in today's NBA. It just doesn't. We see Steph Curry playing at an absolutely elite level, LeBron playing at an elite level. These are all NBA players, but they still are not able to get it done. So yeah, it's a young man's game.
Young man's game. For one, last point on the Clippers, and you brought it up when you talked about David Aldridge's tweet, which I saw also. You do that deal 100 times out of 100. For Kawhi and Paul George individually, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But for the Clippers in 2019, the only sniff of relevance that they had was the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Doc Rivers era, which is now an FX TV special right now.
Yes.
Like that was the only sniff of relevance that they had. We now look at the Clippers as a credible franchise run by serious people. And you can say whatever you want about how, they only made it to the Western Conference Finals one time. It was without Kawhi Leonard. It was in that, weird 21, playoff run. But the Clippers are now going to be in conversations for free agents as time goes on, because you can look at them now and say, this is a franchise run by serious people. Ty Lue is there. I think it ends up being a net positive for the franchise. It's a net negative for the individual players because they did not hold up to, individual where they were at that point. Kawhi Leonard was a finals MVP when he got there, from dragging Toronto there. Paul George was a top 3 MVP guy from his season in Oklahoma City. So you were looking at like, man, they got it. Those two guys got it. And they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. That's their fault, not necessarily the franchise.